Prep Sports Now, it's Case Kiefer back once again with the expert Ray Brewer heading into a big week locally, the second round of the playoffs. Looked over the scores from last week going into this, Ray, and I got to say nothing too surprising or out of the ordinary to me. Maybe that changes this week. Some really big games. I know you got to love this time of year. Things are winding down, but these are some of the matchups we've been waiting to see.
Yeah, you're kind of right. Last week was ceremonial with some of the playoff games. You saw like Arbor View really crush Green Valley, Liberty get past Foothill, Gorman beat Faith Lutheran, Desert Pines beat Palo Verde. It's kind of what we expected. A lot of the good teams in the 4A and 3A had buys. And here we are. This is kind of like the week where we could have some debate about games because I think there's going to be some funky outcomes. And that's exciting after a season of blowouts.
Yeah, it is a long time in the making. I think how many of these games we got? We have 8 games in the top three levels, like we cover, it looks like. How many are there where there could be a winner either way that you wouldn't be shocked by, like 4 or 5? Three?
Yeah, at least three. I mean, the Arbor Liberty game for me, despite Liberty crushing Arbor twice last year, I think is I don't want to say coin flip because I think Liberty is a distinct favorite, but I think it's no less than a 10-point spread if you're doing that at home. I think Slam Virgin Valley in the 3A is a huge game. Slam is significantly better, but Virgin Valley has been there, done that in the playoffs. Then you look at the 4A, Basic Coronado. Again, for me, it's a coin flip game. Coronado might be a little bit better on paper, but I love Basic's defensive front. So those are 3 games right there where anything could happen. And then if Boulder City's in the conversation, well, they were beating Mawapa in week 2 until the final 3 minutes, and Mawapa scored, and they've got a rematch, although it is in Mawapa. So there's 4 games right there where anything could happen, and that doesn't include Spring Valley Vegas, which Spring Valley thinks they've got a fighter's chance.
Yeah, I think you can throw Spring Valley Vegas in there, and I'm not just saying that because I have picked against Vegas so many times over the year. I think that's one where the Wildcats can be the favorite, but is it going to be shocking if they lose? No, and it might be surprising coming from me because I know I'm always picking Liberty in these big games, and I think you're always looking too much for a spot to knock them off. But I think that game falls under the umbrella too. This is one of Arborview's best teams, as we said over and over. Liberty does look like a different animal, but Arborview's been gearing up for this. They have blown them out the last couple of times they've played, as you alluded to. It's gone back years now. It doesn't have too much to do with the current teams, but we've seen Arborview play them close in the past. I don't think there's a gigantic talent discrepancy there. So, yeah, I think it's easy to sell this slate as one worth paying attention to.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's really interesting about the Arbor Liberty game, right? We go back to Arbor, which is fighting Liberty to basically be the second best team in town. Well, they've already lost to Gorman like 68-0 or whatever it was to 0. And to think that team is going to be able to get up off the scrap heap and give Liberty a good game is definitely interesting. We know Arbor View traditionally does not do well when it comes to guarding, athletes in space. We look how Desert Pines has given them fits over the years, not consistent fits, but it has given them fits over the years. And, Liberty, has players on the outside that can make things happen. So going to be a good game. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know we weren't expecting Green Valley to beat them or anything last week, but I think that 59-0 score that Arborview beating Green Valley by in the first round, that might be the most eye-popping score of them all. It seems like they were totally handled their business, didn't mess around at all. Could that be a sign that they're kind of peaking going into this game and headed in the right direction?
Yeah, and that's the one thing if you would ask me, Case, like, what is Arborview's strength? I wouldn't know the answer to that. I don't know if it's the defense, which has been really good the last few weeks. I don't know if it's the offense, which I think has achieved a good run pass balance. I don't know if it's in the strength because Arbor View always has a decent offensive line. So I really think they do have a good balance. And I can't figure out what happened in that Gorman game. How could they lose so bad to Gorman? Is Gorman just that good? And how close to Liberty is how close is Liberty to Gorman, and how close is Liberty to Arborview? I mean, Gorman's outscored folks 405-0 in 6 local games. So, say Liberty beats Arbor next week, are they going to lose 52-0 to Gorman?
I mean, I think I've been saying it, and it seemed like you were on me with it for the most part, but I do think Gorman's just that much better than everyone. Ever since they, took at least at the time, I don't know if they still are now the number one team in the nation to the brink. I think we've gotten back to what it was, what 5 to 7 years ago, where Gorman's just, I mean, they're always the number one team, but now it's like number one, and there is a mountain of drop off to anyone else. So I don't hold too much against our review for that one when it comes to my evaluation. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I'd always love to see a good game, but I think that Gorman's going to do that to everyone throughout the playoffs, which that they started last week. They beat Faith Lutheran 72-0. Again, not a shock, but I just feel like it's going to be this way for all these games. And I do believe we had a wager on that Gorman Arborview game. I think I laid what like I don't just remember I laid a lot, and I was the winner there. So yeah, I think that I think you throw the Gorman game out when you're trying to figure out how competitive these teams are.
Yeah, and the one thing that's cool is when they added the Class 5A. I guess this would be our second season of it. We thought we were going to get games like this every night, like big enrollment schools, well-oiled machine programs, and it obviously hasn't worked out that way. But for one Friday night, we're going to get 2 games, right? Desert Pines at Gorman, Liberty hosting Arbor View, that live up to that Class 5A big boy football mantra, and it's going to be fun. And I think that is very, very important when we've talked all year about whatever to zero and whatever to zero, like to think of maybe there being a game that's not decided when the final quarter starts is definitely intriguing. And the other thing is, like, all 4 of those teams have legit Division I players on both sides of the ball. They all could score. They all beat out of state opponents. They're all coached by guys who've been doing it for a while, right? Rodriguez has been at Desert Pines forever, like literally, since the early 2000s. Morocco's been the head coach of Liberty since '09. Matt Gerber's been a head coach in town forever, right? And Gorman is got a ton of great coaching. It's finally here, a week of good games.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that touches on our review and Liberty. Of course, we'll go back during the picks, but I don't even know if we've mentioned who Gorman is playing this week in the other 5A game. They're hosting Desert Pines. I know you just talked about Tico, but that is the matchup. Desert Pines had I'd say a strong finish to the year, and then kept that up in the first round of the playoffs with a 48-7 win over Palo Verde. But it's going to come to an end here. But I got to say, I think it's been a pretty good run for the Jaguars.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of freshmen who are really good, and if they keep this ninth grade crew intact, in 3 years they're gonna be. I mean, they're gonna put the one thing I like about Desert Pines, and I said this in the pick case, is I don't think those kids are intimidated by anybody, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing is that they're all. I mean, they've got great players at every position. I mean, they've got good Division I kids across the board, but they also have a group of ninth graders who have just burst onto the scene this year, right? And if those guys matriculate, and Messiah Mingo and Isaiah Nichols and Trey Jackson, if those guys matriculate up, they're going to be something in a few years. And that's exciting. And then they've also got a linebacker, Landon McCobber, who's got a scholarship offer. He's a sophomore from Wisconsin. So, I mean, this is by far, in my opinion, I don't know. Is Desert Pines better than Arbor View? I don't know, but I think this is the most local talent to face Gorman this year.
Yeah, and I remember Coach Rodriguez talking about that going into the year at our media day, all the young talent they had. So cool to see that it has panned out and those guys look like they're on path. And if you're buying futures, so to speak, they're a team you want to watch in the next couple of years, because if they keep this group together, they could be scary. But I don't know. I hope they put up a fight. I hope they can score. I don't know if anyone's scoring on Gorman really, but certainly looking up long term there.
Absolutely. But I mean, you're telling me you don't think they score at least one goal? I mean, one goal.
I mean,
In my soccer mind,
yeah.
they're not going to score at least once uh, on Gorman. You think Gorman is shuts out a seventh straight opponent?
I was about to say, how many teams have scored on Gorman this year? Like, and locally, any?
None. Not nobody. 405-0.
Okay, there you go. Oh yeah. Now I just called up your picks in front of me. 407-0. Yeah, I would lean towards I wouldn't be shocked if they scored, but I would lean towards it's a little more likely they don't score. I mean, especially at this point, it's a thing now. You know that the Gales know about it. They want to keep people off the scoreboard, so I don't think they're going to be giving up any soft touchdowns late in the game. So I say that streak runs to what did you say this would be 8 straight weeks, and that's nothing against Desert Pines. Again, I just think Gorman is on another plane. It's unfortunate. I wish we could have some parity one of these years and have like some more evened out games, but I don't see it here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to score at least once. Case. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've got a soft spot in my heart for the East Side schools, and I go to the fact where I really think Desert Pines thinks that they could compete with Gorman. That's going to be a difference. I may be wrong. I still think Gorman wins big, but in terms of actually scoring,
I don't know. I mean, once wouldn't shock me, but I think when you throw in the at least once, that's when I got to pump the brakes. Like I would legitimately be shocked if they score more than once. If you're
more than once, I would be. I'm saying at least once, not more than at least.
Okay, well, at least once I think implies that they could get more than one, which I just don't see. I think it's going to be like a 56-0, 63-0, something like that. But I guess we disagree slightly, but I think we have the same winner. That kind of is a good look at the 5A. How about we go down and look at the other two classes, starting with the 4A. You already mentioned maybe Coronado Basic, the best game of the bunch there. Spring Valley at Vegas should also be fun. Probably the top two seeds should be a little more secure in Silverado and Shadow Ridge. It would take one of the biggest upsets of the century to see one of those two go down.
Yeah, I mean, Silverado's only given up 23 points this year. They're really good, man. I tell you, I was, as you know, CK, we talked about this offline, but I was at a Silverado practice last week when they had their bye week, and his entire coaching staff is made up of guys who were former head coaches. So, like the line coach is Paul Neapoli, my guy who used to be at Shap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you what, dude, that guy could be like a college line coach the way he works those players, right? Mike Evans is a assistant coach. Mark Save, do you remember Mark Save? He's on the staff there. A guy named Hamlet McNeese, who's been over there for like 20 years. And they're just loaded, bro. They got a ton of good players. And they look big and they look physical and they sling the ball around. And I don't think anybody's beating them. I mean, the short of Shadow Ridge, getting to the line of scrimmage, letting the clock wind down until the referee circles his hand in the air and getting some fluky, turnovers. I don't see Silverado even being challenged.
Yeah, I would say maybe Shadow Ridge could somewhat challenge them, but I think we're on the same page. That's the only team that could possibly do so, and that's kind of a stretch to even believe that. I think they win that game easily as well. But as I said, they are taking on Sierra Vista this week, who we should give a shout out. Looks like that might have been the game of the week last week, 35-29 over Durango. So it was a hard fought win. I think it's always a big deal to get a playoff victory. And I know they're kind of a new coach, new program over there in Sierra Vista, so that's something to build on winning in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, overtime game. Durango hit a field goal at the buzzer to send it to overtime. So um, I got to think that's the first overtime game of the season as well, Case.
Of the whole of everyone,
I maybe
I think of one.
Virgin and Trump went to overtime, but can you remember another overtime?
I mean, not off the top of my head, but I thought you would be the one to know. It just seems crazy. I feel like over the years, I feel like I've seen so many overtime games, but it has been a little bit more, I guess, lopsided, uneven than ever before this year. So I guess it makes sure if there hasn't been one or maybe only one, two, or three, but it's still one of those things that just sounds kind of crazy when it first comes out of your mouth, you know?
Yeah, and I mean it just again not to beat a dead horse here, but we've talked for a while about how this season we're seeing the impact of the pandemic where kids who lost that season in 20 are now juniors playing on the varsity and they're just getting destroyed. It's been a unique season with the lopsided outcomes, and that's the product of the pandemic and kids not getting a chance to develop on the lower levels.
Yeah, that's it's too bad, but it is a common theme, and it's a common theme for a reason. But yeah, so we're gonna think Silverado and Shadow Ridge are on a collision course here, but I know you briefly already talked about the other two games, but Spring Valley, Vegas, Coronado, Basic. They kind of fall in that category I talked about earlier. That last week, all those games kind of went to script, but anything special to watch in these games? I would say don't count out my Grizzlies. I'm liking them more and more the more I look into it. I think it's gonna be hard to pick them outright, but they've been so good defensively all year. They get off on the right track in the playoffs. Shut out Cimarron Memorial last week, 26-0. 4 shutouts last week. So shout out to everyone that shut out their opponents. Coronado 51-0 over Sunrise. I don't know. I don't gloss over those playoff shutouts. Those mean something to me.
Yeah, and that was case the first playoff win in Spring Valley history.
Wow, I would not. That's another fact I would not have guessed.
Yeah, since '04. I just think Vegas with Eli Espinoza, the sophomore quarterback, they could really sling it around. Vegas is not great on the offense, on the lines. And I don't necessarily think it matters this week. I think that they could do enough with the quick passing game to get through to the next round. Now, will they be able to line up against Shadow Ridge or Silverado, who's big up front? Probably not. But to get through Spring Valley, I think they can. And, Coronado's 8-2 CK. It's just for me, they don't score with enough regularity for me to be like convinced. And the last thing you want to do is have a playoff game where it's kind of low scoring because then anything could happen. And then you get a guy like Jeff Cahill, who's been the head coach at Basic since what, '07 or '08. He's been in plenty of playoff games. He's been to regional championships on the large school division. You give him that guy a home game against a low scoring team. I just think that's a formula for disaster. And I know at least one coach in the 4A that thinks Basic is going to be the team that plays Silverado and not Shadow Ridge.
Eh, I don't know. I feel like this is like the reverse of other recent seasons we've had, where I feel like you've had such blinders on for Basic all year. I feel like you pick them every week, and they've had some bad performances. I mean, maybe you can convince me Coronado's hard of scoring, but it's going to be a little bit tough this week when they just put up 51 last week. They found a way to score last week, did they not?
Yeah, I mean, Sunrise Mountain is I mean, come on,
They
bro.
were improved all year. All year we were singing the praises of Chris
Yeah, but
Sayers
the
and how
one
much
the
better
one
they've
thing you got
been.
to realize, dude, is these teams that aren't good, as the season grows and they lose kids to injury and ineligibility, they got nobody to replace them with. You're lucky to get 11 kids out there that got the same jersey on by the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I feel like every time you've talked up basic, this is totally anecdotally though. Although I think the Henderson
Uh,
Bowl is one of them, but I feel like every time you talk them up, they go out and they get beat by like 3 touchdowns or something, and I'm left scratching my head.
yeah, I mean, do you see that? Do you in your heart see Coronado even scoring 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout or anything. I think it's fair to put it in that category of one of the good games this week that could go either way. But I mean, if you're asking me to pick it, I think I'd pick some. I think I'd say Coronado's team total, so to speak, is probably like uh in the mid 20s, like 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's just the only game that they played this year. I mean, they barely beat Spring Valley 21-19. They beat Sierra Vista 12-7, right? So you're talking, I mean, and like beating Bonanza and Mojave doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? For me, I think this is going to be a good game, regardless.
Yeah, you have some good points with some of those scores there. Maybe it is really close. Maybe it's just a grinder and someone is going to win 10-7. But in my mind, I would favor Coronado there. So that's a look at the 4A, and we can't get to the picks without looking at the 3A, which, as you mentioned, has might be 2 for 2 and 2 close games. Virgin Valley and Slam and Boulder City going to Moapa Valley. All these teams have been good this year, and I think at their best, all of them could beat each other. The problem is Moapa Valley has been more consistently at their best.
Yeah.
But
So the only way for Moapa Valley to make, I think, to win the state championship is for Virgin Valley to beat Slam. Because if Moapa and Slam both win, Slam would get the home field next week in the state semifinals, and Moapa would have to travel up north. And I don't think Moapa wins. I don't think anybody wins this year traveling up north. But I think whoever has a home playoff game here has got a chance. Does that
so
make
there's a
sense?
way. So who's most likely not to have to travel north? I'm trying to figure out the way you described it.
If Moapa and Slam win, they're the 1 seeds. Moapa would have to go up north.
Okay, but if Virgin can knock off Slam, then Moapa gets to stay here and Virgin has to go up north.
Correct. And Virgin only beat El Dorado 19-9 last week. El Dorado much improved. Everybody's raving about how they're doing, and then Virgin was coming down the high of losing to Moapa in the Hammer game, and then El Dorado was an hour late because of traffic on the 15 getting to the game. So who knows what's going to happen with Virgin? They're battle tested from a playoff run, but Slam has got some athletes at quarterback and running back, and it's basically the better athletes against the better system.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. I guess the other question becomes, I mean, we feel like Moapa Valley could beat anyone in Overton. So you've kind of already said they have a chance if a North team has to come uh, down here. What about it if Virgin Valley wins this game? Or wait, what
If Boulder wins and Slam wins, Boulder travels. If Virgin wins and Boulder wins, that's a darn good question. I don't know who travels.
could Slam? Do you think? I guess what I'm trying to get at is if do you think Slam could win one of those games down here, or the northern team's just too much better than everyone except Moapa, who might have a fighting chance?
I don't know. I mean, for me, this is Slam's first trip through the playoffs, and I just don't know what to expect from them. I really don't.
Yeah, so that'll be one to watch. That should be a really good game this week. Looks like a coin flip between Virgin Valley and Slam. You want to get to the picks or anything else to add to these
Let's do
games?
it, man. Let's
All
do
right.
it. We're done.
We'll go back up to the top and start in the 5A with Desert Pines and Bishop Gorman.
Yeah, again, Gorman is so good this year. I don't think they're as good as the 2016 Gales that won that mythical natty that had like Haskell Garrett and Tate Martell and the 8 or 9 Division One guys. But in comparison to the teams they're playing, it's just, I mean, they're scoring 65 points on 22 plays. They're up 14-0, 2 minutes into a game. Gorman is just going to cruise, but I tell you, DP will score 50-7 is my final.
All right, I'm going to stick with my 56-0. No points from me. We already discussed that, but that's maybe our biggest disagreement, at least. I feel like we're going to be on the same side to a lot of these games. Arbor View at Liberty.
Case a lot of people, and I say a lot, I mean maybe like, say I've talked to 6 people in the last 3 days, and maybe half of them think Arbor View has a chance. One person animated that Arbor View is going to win. Listen, Liberty is not a world beater this year. They're good. They're right behind Gorman, but they don't have that breakaway Jeremy Bernard guy. They don't. They're more like the Nico Capelli Liberty, where they've got a great tailback. They're going to try to pound the ball, and they've got some guys on the outside that could play. And I think Arbor View matches up very well this year. If the Michael Kearns kid is on at quarterback, he's a dual threat. He can run and pass. And if Arbor View could keep it close into the second half, things could go crazy. With that said, Liberty's pulled away the last 2 years in the fourth quarter. I think they're going to do it again. I got the Patriots, but by no means is this going to be a blowout. This is going to be a great game.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. I think Arbor View hangs with them for a while, but I think Liberty will wear them down as the game goes on. I don't think the result will be in question by the fourth quarter or into the fourth quarter, certainly. So I guess I have a little bigger margin than you. Not much, though. I like this Arbor View team. I think they make it scary on Liberty for a little bit, but ultimately it's going to be the Patriots for me as well. The 4A, let's see if we have any different picks here. I got a feeling that this one we've already hinted at it, but you like basic, and I'm not so sold when they host Coronado.
Yeah, I've been disrespecting Coronado all year. Nothing changes. I'll take Antoine Taylor and my boys on the D line. Give me the Wolfpack and a veteran coach in the playoffs and Jeff Cahill.
All right, we'll see how this one goes. I've got Coronado. You have convinced me, probably low scoring, touchdown or less margin, but I think Coronado edges them here. I think they've been more consistent throughout the year. Maybe Basic has a higher ceiling. If everything clicks, maybe they win this game, but that's a hard sell to me. So I'm going to go with Coronado. The only question of this one, I guess, is the same as the Gorman game. Do they score, and how much does Silverado win by when the Skyhawks welcome in the Lions from Sierra Vista?
Sierra Vista's played tough all year, but I think this might be one of those mentally defeated spots. Give me the Hawks 55-0.
Yep, sounds about right to me. Can't disagree with you in any fashion there. Spring Valley at Las Vegas. You did kind of scare me when you said the Wildcats, can kind of sling it around with their quarterback. Maybe they spread the game out, play sideline to sideline. Maybe that'll be a new look for Spring Valley, who I know is great defensively, but more great, I think, up front and stopping the run game. So maybe this is a plus matchup for Las Vegas. But I still see this as close. I think Las Vegas wins a very close game. This is one I do think comes down to the fourth quarter, comes down to the end. Maybe Las Vegas makes a late stop. Spring Valley gets the ball, 2 minutes left, chance for a game-winning drive, and it's not meant to be. Give me Las Vegas by 6 points.
I think the game is close early and Vegas pulls away. Spring Valley is content after winning that playoff game. My Wildcats move on.
All right, so we're both on Las Vegas, and I think we'll both be on the same side here. Desert Oasis at Shadow Ridge.
Yeah, Shadow's going to roll. Game's over already.
Yeah, Shadow Ridge, big. All signs point to Shadow and Silverado, right? 2 weeks.
I think I'll be at Allegiant Stadium for that one.
Okay, that's a state championship game right there.
Correct.
All right, I'm not up to date on who has the North and who doesn't anymore. I don't know who's playing who these days.
Yeah, well, it's Silverado or bust, CK. There's no North in the 4A, so
Okay,
they're good
gotcha. That's what I was unsure about. All right.
for the next
Um,
3 weeks, and then there'll be a realignment meeting at the end of November, and Gorman will never beat another Reno team again.
okay. So yeah, we're only different on Coronado and Basic. Let's see if we can get another difference in the 3A, and we'll start with Virgin Valley against Slam Charter, not Slam Academy, Slam Charter.
Yeah, it's I'm telling you right now, Virgin is not impressed the last 2 weeks, but I hate that they got to travel in for the game, but I just think that Slam this is basically going to be like their first I'm a favorite, I'm supposed to win playoff game, and I'm going to take what I know and I'm going to take Virgin even though they looked awful last week.
I'm gonna go with Slam. I've been high on Slam all year. I think they've got some playmakers there. Like you said, Virgin. I think I was a red flag last week what Virgin did, and in a game that looks super close. Give me the team that's playing better coming into it. I like the way Slam is. I think their recent form's better, so I'm gonna go with Slam Charter, whose nickname I never remember, or else I would have used it once in this explanation.
Yeah, that's a good question.
You don't remember what I was setting you up. I thought for sure you
Yeah.
remembered, but no. Well, whatever they are, the Slam Charters, I think are going to take this one. And that all leads into our final game. Moapa Valley is hosting Boulder City. A really tight result early in the year. Moapa Valley had to claw one out. Uh, is it different this time around? Is this a little bit easier on them?
I mean, this is Moapa Valley, who's won 20 some straight games in a row at home in November.
Yeah, I think you said it pretty well. Maybe if this game was, somewhere else at Boulder City, certainly, or even like a neutral field, I might be more tempted. I still think this one will be close. I think Boulder City's tough. They play good defense, low scoring games. They might be along the same lines you were talking about. Running down the clock. I think they'll take every advantage they have. But Moapa Valley, too experienced, too well this time of year. I think they win somewhat comfortably, but it's going to be a close game the majority of the time.
Yeah, I agree. But we're gonna have some fun games.
For sure, and it doesn't stop there. Next week we'll be back with some semifinals, I guess, in on both sides, the 3A and 4A, as well as the 5A continuing on. So we got a few different games this week. Looks like we disagree on what two of the eight. I've got Slam and Coronado. Brewers got Basic and Virgin Valley. Stick around to see how those go, and we'll be back next week to talk about more of the playoffs as we progress towards crowning three state champions in high school football. Any parting words, Ray?
No, CK. I thought you had even logged off there, my friend. My apologies.
All right.
But it's
Thanks a
been
lot.
fun, and Arbor Liberty is going to be everything we dreamed of.
All right. Yeah, can't wait to break that one down next week. For Ray, I'm Case. Thanks for listening.